Hey there, tech-savvy farmer wannabes. So, ever wonder how we're going to feed, like, a growing planet with, less and less farmland?
It's a big question.
Yeah, get ready to have your mind blown. Today, we're diving into DST farm plant technology. And trust me, it's not as sci-fi as it sounds.
It's actually pretty amazing when you think about it. Imagine all the challenges farmers face: unpredictable weather, pests, bad soil. DST kind of takes the guesswork out.
So no more relying on that old farmer's almanac, right?
Well, I mean, tradition's great, but DST, it's like having like a super-powered crystal ball. We're talking satellites beaming down real-time data on your crops, soil moisture, even like predicting problems before they happen.
Okay, so I'm picturing satellites and lasers, which, I mean, cool, but break it down for me. What kind of data are we
Yeah.
talking about, and how does it actually help a farmer, actually farm?
Okay, so imagine this.
Yeah.
You're a farmer, right? You're looking out over your fields, but instead of just seeing like green, you're seeing a health bar above each plant, kind of like in a video game.
And that's a game I can get behind.
That's essentially what DST does. It uses something called multi-spectral imaging. So it captures way more detail than our eyes can see, like a plant's temperature and how much light it's absorbing.
So it's like an X-ray vision for your crops.
Exactly. And all of that gets like crunched into something called the Vegetation Health Index, or NDVI.
Ah, yes, NDVI, the article mentioned that. So a high score means happy plants, low score, trouble brewing.
Exactly. But it goes beyond just telling you like how healthy your crops are. This data gets fed into AI-powered systems.
Okay, before we go full-on tech talk,
Yeah.
can you explain AI for those of us who haven't, quite caught up to our robot overlords?
Think of it as having like a 24/7 farm assistant who's amazing at analyzing data. It takes all that info coming in from the satellites, historical weather patterns, even the specific conditions on your farm, and then it spits out advice tailored to you, like having a personal farming consultant, but without the hefty fees.
So what kind of advice are we talking about? Give me an example.
Okay, let's say you need to decide when to plant your crops. This AI will consider your soil's moisture, upcoming weather, even historical data for your region, and tell you the optimal planting window to, maximize your yield.
No more second guessing or relying on gut feelings. I can see why farmers are getting excited about this. But hold on, we can't forget about the tech that makes all this data sharing possible. Blockchain. Most people think crypto when they hear blockchain, but it's got a place in agriculture too, right?
Absolutely. Blockchain creates a secure record of everything that happens to a crop, from field to table. Imagine scanning a package of strawberries at the grocery store and being able to trace their entire journey from the farm they were grown on to the exact date they were harvested.
So it's like giving consumers a behind-the-scenes look at their food.
Exactly. And not just any look, but a guarantee of transparency and traceability, which is a big deal for people who care about where their food comes from these days.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all ties together. But we've thrown a lot of tech at our listeners. Let's break down exactly how Farminaut uses these tools, especially since they seem to be leading the charge in DST farm plant technology. So we've established that Farminaut is using some seriously cool tech, but are they the only ones playing in this like high-tech farm field?
That's a good question. It's like discovering a gold mine. Suddenly everyone wants in, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
So you have these established tech giants, especially the ones already doing satellite imagery and data analysis, and they're all kind of like dipping their toes into this precision agriculture world.
Yeah, I mean, they already have the expensive satellites. Might as well
Yeah,
put them to work, right?
exactly. And then you have agricultural companies, the ones making fertilizers, pesticides, all that, and they're investing in DST too. Makes sense. I mean, who knows more about growing crops than the companies supplying the actual tools?
So it's this mix of like seasoned veterans and then these scrappy startups ready to disrupt things. Sounds like a recipe for some serious innovation.
Definitely.
But with all these options popping up, what should farmers actually look for when they're choosing a DST provider? It's not like picking out a new tractor.
You're not wrong. It can be overwhelming, but let's break it down. The first thing is to think about, your farm, your needs. What are your biggest pain points? What keeps you up at night?
Because for some farmers, it might be water management. For others, it's pests, or maybe it's trying to, improve their soil.
Exactly. So once you know what you need help with, then you can start looking at which companies actually offer solutions, tailored to you. Do they specialize in water sensors? Are they like really good at predicting pest outbreaks with their AI?
And of course, like any good farmhand, you got to make sure they fit the budget, right?
For sure. Definitely compare pricing, but also like pay attention to what's included. Some companies might offer way more features or better customer support, which is like crucial when you're in the middle of a growing season.
Yeah, I imagine nothing's more frustrating than needing tech support and getting a recorded message saying, we're experiencing higher than normal call volumes.
Yeah.
Not exactly helpful when you have a field full of, wilting crops.
The worst. And, don't be afraid to ask for a test drive. A lot of these companies offer trial periods, so you can like kick the tires or in this case, analyze some data before committing.
So do your homework, figure out what matters, and don't be afraid to shop around. It's
Exactly.
like buying a new tractor after all.
Speaking of new tractors, that's a nice segue into some of the future developments Farminaut has been hinting at.
Ooh, like what? Self-driving tractors powered by moonbeams.
Not quite moonbeams, but how about hyperspectral imaging?
Okay, back up a second. We talked about multispectral imaging earlier.
Hmm.
How is hyperspectral different?
Okay, so think of it this way. Multispectral is like looking at your crops with a magnifying glass. Hyperspectral is like, wheeling out a high-powered microscope. It captures like hundreds of bands of light instead of just a handful. So you're getting this incredibly detailed picture of your crops.
So instead of just seeing a plant, you're seeing the cellular level. That's
Mhm.
wild. What else is brewing in Farminaut's tech lab?
Well, they mention working on even more advanced AI models to predict crop yields with like even greater accuracy. Imagine knowing, almost down to the bushel, how much corn you're going to harvest before you even plant.
Talk about taking the gamble out of farming. What
Yep.
else?
And here's the kicker. They're exploring ways to integrate their DST insights directly with autonomous farm equipment.
Wait, like self-driving tractors. Is this the future of farming we're talking about?
It just might be. Imagine a world where your tractor is getting real-time data from satellites and automatically adjusting its course to like apply fertilizer exactly where it's needed, down to the centimeter.
Wow. Talk about a farmer's dream. That would save so much time, money, and resources. But it also makes you wonder.
What's on your mind?
Well, with all this talk about AI and automation, does this mean human farmers will become obsolete?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a topic that deserves its own, like, deep dive, which is exactly what we'll do after a quick message.
So before the break, we stumble onto a pretty big question. Will all this amazing farm tech eventually, replace farmers altogether? It's a little, I don't know, unsettling to think about.
Yeah, it's something a lot of people are asking, and for good reason. On the one hand, you have self-driving tractors, AI making decisions about planting, harvesting. It's easy to see how that could lead to, fewer humans actually working on farms.
Yeah, those robots are taking over.
Yeah.
Headlines are hard to ignore. But I'm guessing you have a slightly more nuanced take.
Look, change can be scary, right? But what if, instead of replacing farmers, this technology actually empowers them?
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
Think of DST and AI as like really sophisticated tools, right, in a farmer's toolbox.
Tools that can not only make their lives easier, but also help them be, like, way more successful.
Exactly. Imagine, instead of spending hours and hours on backbreaking labor, farmers could use these technologies to like make smarter decisions about their land, optimize their resources, maybe even find ways to increase their yields.
And have more time to, actually sleep.
And wouldn't it be amazing if technology could give farmers back the one thing they're always short on, which is time?
That's huge.
Yeah.
I bet they'd love to have more time to, I don't know, maybe actually enjoy the whole farming thing instead of stressing about the weather or the markets.
Right. Like this tech could free them up to be more than just growers, It could help them become innovators, experimenting with new sustainable farming techniques, maybe even turning their farms into like educational centers
Yeah.
or even agritourism destinations.
So rather than putting farmers out of business, this technology could actually help them diversify their income and connect with customers in a whole new way.
Exactly. And let's not forget, farming, it's about so much more than just like planting seeds and reaping what you sow. It's about understanding the nuances of the land, adapting to the weather, knowing how to coax the best out of different crops. It's an art form as much as a science,
Something even the smartest AI probably can't replicate. At
Wow.
least not yet, anyway.
Exactly. While robots might be great at repetitive tasks, I think that human intuition experience, that deep connection to the land, that'll always be vital to farming. After all, it's that human touch that ultimately, puts food on our tables.
And as more and more people want to know where their food comes from, that human connection, that story behind the product, that's only going to become more important, right?
Absolutely. Think about it like this. People are willing to pay a premium for like craft beer or, artisanal cheese because they value the story, the passion, the human element that goes into making it. DST could help farmers tell that same story, but with data.
Yep.
Imagine like being able to trace your coffee back to a specific farm and see exactly how it was grown, the sustainable practices that were used, the care that went into, every bean.
That's powerful stuff. So maybe the future of farming isn't about like robots taking over, but about humans and technology working together in this like more sustainable and, dare I say, delicious way.
I like the way you think.
Well, that was eye-opening. Who knew we'd be talking about the future of farming in such a, like hopeful way?
It's a fascinating time to be paying attention to agriculture, that's for sure.
It really is. Before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something Farminaut mentioned. They talked about making this technology, accessible and affordable for everyone, not just these like mega farms.
Right, and that's crucial. If we want to see this like widespread adoption of sustainable farming, these tools need to be available to everyone. I mean, from small family farms to, larger operations.
Absolutely. Okay, so listeners, we've thrown a lot of information at you today. Satellites, AI, the future of food. Now, we want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. Would you pay a little extra for, like, I don't know, a head of lettuce or a bag of apples if you knew exactly where they were grown, how they were produced, and what kind of environmental impact they had?
Food for thought, right?
It really is. It makes you think about the true cost of food and the value we place on, on sustainability and transparency.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of DST farm plant technology. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those plates full of delicious, sustainably grown food.